Good afternoon. We will begin our presentation shortly. Hello again, everybody. We'll begin in about 2 minutes. Okay, everybody, it's 1 o'clock, so let's get it started. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, and welcome to Look and Listen, Conducting Intentional Observation in the Classroom webinar. On behalf of Early Learning Coalition and our education team, thank you so much for everybody who participated also in the previous webinars. And just to remind you that you can find all the recordings for all the previous presented webinars on our ELC website. So let's begin. We would like to start out by introducing ourselves. So Ida, my wonderful co-presenter, please go first.
Thank you, Agnes. Good afternoon, everyone. So welcome to our webinar, Look and Listen, Conducting Intentional Observation in Your Classrooms. I am a Quality and Education Coaching Specialist for the ELC. I mainly work with the providers with the teaching strategies, goal, child assessments portion, but I've been serving providers, children, and families in Broward for a very long time. So I was born in a small town in Maya West, Puerto Rico. I have my undergrad degree in early childhood from Barry University and my master's degree in reading from FIU. I am a class certified observer and MMCI trainer for infant, toddlers, and pre-K. I have worked before in the elementary and preschool as a teacher. I love to teach. That's my passion. That's my love. This is my calling. I also love to travel and explore different foods and cultures. And I said before, I've been doing this for a long time, about 20 years in early childhood education. And now I will present my beautiful and wonderful co-presenter, Agnes. Take it away, Agnes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ida. So hello, everybody. My name is Agnieszka Body, and I am also a quality and education coaching specialist for our ELC here in Broward County, serving our providers and children here in our centers in Broward County. I was born in a very small city in Poland, in central part Poland in Europe. I obtained my Master of Science in Education from Świętokrzyska Academy University in Poland. I know you can break your tongue pronouncing the name of some of the Polish schools. I also am, as Ida, my co-presenter, class certified observer and trainer for MMCI for infant, toddlers, and pre-K. Over 20 plus years experience in early childhood education, starting out in Poland, then spent some time in London, in England, and then I came to New York, and now last 16 years here in Florida, my second home. I work as a preschool teacher and as a director, and I love to teach. I love to travel, and as well as Ida, exploring different food and cultures. I would like to learn Spanish, but one day I'll get there. So that's a little bit about myself. So let's go over some of our webinar housekeeping here. So as you can see, you can click on the orange rectangle with the white arrow pointing right to use your panel on either the right or left side of your screen, whatever is convenient for you. When you click on the questions triangle shown here below on the panel, you can type any questions you might have or comments throughout the training. To download the handouts, which we have 5 fabulous handouts for you, so you can use to make your observations and anecdotal note which we're going to talk about throughout the webinar. Some of those handouts really help you with those observations. So when you click on the handouts triangle shown here below on the panel, you click on the documents, and then once you click on the document, the PDF file will open, and this will allow you to click on the down arrow and download the documents to your device or your computer. Okay, let's move on. So let's talk about some attendance, the credits, pre, post, and evaluation. This is something new. We just start of July 1st. That we will have pre-test of 3 questions for you to answer when you register for each webinar. And upon completion of the training, a post-test of also 3 questions and training survey of 5 questions will launch right after we finish this presentation. So please complete this information for us. All ELC Broward trainings are for in-service hours only. Your training certificate will be emailed within 24 hours and sent to the email you used when you registered for this webinar. In order to be marked as attended, you must log in on the computer or download the GoToWebinar application on your phone, tablet, any smart device you might have. So just remember, just call in. It does not register attendance, and you will not receive, unfortunately, a certificate or be marked as attended. If you can't see the screen, we can't see you. So that means that the platform will not register you as attended. You have to see the screen. so we can see your name and on the list of participants. Okay. Okay, let's see what we're going to do during this training today. So welcome and introduction we just completed. Then we're going to talk about some objectives for today's presentation. We're going to talk about observations, assessment, screening, and evaluations. What are those? What are the difference? And so we're going to go over. We're going to talk about the assessment process, type of observations, observation data review, what we do with this data we collected on each of our children. We're going to have some posted videos, and then we have some strategies for your classrooms. So let's go over some of the objectives for our presentation today. So we're going to talk about the importance of the implementation of observations and of the children in our classroom. The difference between observation, screening, assessment, and evaluation, connecting to observation, the observations to Florida Early Learning and Developmental Standards, but to kindergarten. And we're gonna talk about how to collect documentation using various observation methods, and then we review and reflect on those observations. Okay, it's time for our first poll. So, is observing the children in your classroom important? Yes? No? Sometimes. And as you can see, my little Winnie the Pooh is inviting you to take poll. 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 So let's start, and I'm gonna launch the first poll so you can answer. I'll give you a minute and a half to complete the poll. So is observing the children in your classroom important? Yes, no, sometimes. Okay, cast your votes. Wow, you guys voting. It's already 55%. Beautiful. Thank you for participating. Okay. Come on, guys, cast your votes. They are coming. Just as a reminder, if you would have any difficulty with those polls and you can't for whatever reason see them, you can also type your answer in the chat box so we can see it. So you don't have to worry about that. Okay, so I'm gonna close the poll now and we'll share the results. Wonderful, 98% says that yes, observing the children in a classroom is important. So let's find out why. Why observe the children in your classroom? Observing and documenting children's development and learning over time help to determine if the children are developing academically, socially, and emotionally. Observe and support and guide and inform planning and instructions. We identify children who might benefit from special help, screening, or further evaluation. Building relationship and communicating with family members and provide reports to administrators to guide program planning and professional development opportunities. So, what is observation? What is observation in early childhood education? Well, observation is the process of tracking student behavior over time. By creating detailed documentation, educators will be able to notice patterns and assess how each child is developing. Observations in an ongoing process, and you're going to hear about this very often throughout this presentation. Ongoing process conducted by teachers and others to document child's growth and development. During an observation session, teachers monitors a child as he or she demonstrates and identified skills or abilities within a developmental domain. Observation sessions should be performed by a familiar person in the child's natural environment at the time when he or she is at his or her best. Results are carefully documented following set guidelines and written procedures. Observing children is a necessary part of what teachers, home visitors, and family and childcare providers do daily. So what are some benefits of observation? It helps us to facilitate curriculum development and guide developmentally appropriate practices, assist in providing individualized care, and help share information with parents and others, and reveal signs of abuse and neglect. Do we observe toddlers and infants? Yes, we do observe. Those are the special little ones that we must observe. Why? Because they are nonverbal. So we can find out how they feel, what they want. We have to observe them. There are many important reasons why education staff observe infants and toddlers. For example, they observe to implement ongoing child observations and continuous process of documenting and interpreting children's knowledge, skills, and interests. Measure and track children's progress in acquiring skills and concepts over time as a part of ongoing assessment cycle. Learn about children through individualized care and the curriculum, including interactions, teaching practices, learning experiences, routines, and schedules. Let's see how learning about your children can make you as a teacher more effective in your classroom in this scenario in the next few slides. So, Miss Amy and Donna have begun to feel like referee in their young toddler classroom, and it seems if every time they turn around, they see toys thrown across the room. Lately, they have been spending a lot of time redirecting several children who are doing most of the throwing and trying to keep the other children safe. One day, during planning time, Amy and Donna decide to take turns observing the throwers. Over the next few days, their observations reveal that the children are not throwing toys to hurt anyone in purpose. Rather, the children have created a game of throwing toys at other toys. The teachers decide to dedicate an area of their classroom to this game. They provide soft balls, soft blocks, and a large paper target. They model stacking the blocks, knocking them down, and throwing blocks and balls at the target paper. Excuse me. After several days, the number of toy throwing incidents goes way down, as does the number of times Amy and Donna redirect children to safer activities. Through observation, the teachers gained a better understanding of what the children were doing and why, and they found a successful way to respect children's interests while keeping them safe. So as you can see, Amy's and Donna's story shows that when staff are intentional about observing their children, they are better able to understand how children think, feel, and learn about the world around them. In turn, this helps them to make good decisions about how they provide responsive and informed care. Individualizing care and curriculum and tracking children's progress make observations a powerful and informative learning tool. However, there are other reasons to observe that are also powerful and informative, and that is to build relationship with the children and the families. So next, let's talk about what is screening. Early childhood screening is a brief and simple process used to identify potential health and developmental problems in young children. Screening in early childhood supports children's readiness for kindergarten and promotes positive child health and developmental outcomes through referrals to early learning opportunities. During a screening session, a trained adult identifies and measures specific skills and abilities as indicated by screening instrument. Screening takes place recurrently and using an instrument that is proven to be valid, accurate, and reliable. Family members are all usually involved in screening, sometimes as active participants. Like observation, screening should take place in the child's natural environment with familiar people and be performed when he or she is at his or her best. For example, the screening tool that teachers use here in Florida is the Ages and Stages questionnaire, known as ASQs. Just as a reminder, ASQs was designed to screen for developmental delay by evaluating the development over time. The ASQs we start implement at 2 months through 60 months. And the parents are involved in completing this also, and then we get the parents' involvement that they completed this and will be completed, completing every month after that. So what are some benefits of the screening? To help us identify specific areas of concern, right? That's the most important thing, to determine if further assessment or evaluation might be necessary, provide a basis for referrals, empower parents with information to help them make decisions for their child, and present a basis for necessary and ongoing communication with parents and others. So next, we're going to talk about what is an assessment. Childhood assessment is a process of gathering information about the child, reviewing the information, and using the information to plan educational activities that are at the level the child can understand and is able to learn from. Assessment is a critical part of a high-quality early childhood program. Just like an observation, assessment is an ongoing process designated to help to improve a child's outcomes in learning development. Assessment is a crucial process, also used where an agency or organization gathers and reviews multiple sources of information about the child's suspected or confirmed developmental delay or disability. If there is evidence of developmental delay, childcare professionals in Florida refer families to the Florida Diagnostic and Learning Resources System ChildFind, also known as a FIDLERS, for children 3 to 5 years old, and First Steps for infants and toddlers age children. So again, to summarize, both screening and assessment provide valuable information about each child's interests, strengths, and needs. The distinction between these two tools is that the screening gives a snapshot of whether the child's development is on track at this very moment. And assessment is an ongoing process that includes observations and provides information about development over time. So screening is at this moment just a snapshot, and assessment is an ongoing process and give us information over time. If done correctly, systematic, ongoing child assessment provides information on children's development and learning. It helps inform curriculum planning, teaching, and individualizing for each child across all Head Start early learning outcomes framework domains. So let's talk about some of the benefits of assessment. Help us empower parents again to help the child's growth and develop. Improve a family's ability to navigate a complex system of services, result in a referral for evaluation so eligible children may receive benefits they are entitled to under the IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, which is a federal law. So after screening and assessment, teacher and others will be able either to verify that the child is developing typically or identify early signs of the delay or disability, which will bring us to evaluation. So what is an evaluation? excuse me. An evaluation is a process that helps parents and school determine whether a child has disability. It looks at child's strengths and needs. It might examine cognitive, academic, behavioral, physical, and other developmental factors. Evaluations include information provided by the parents. Evaluation is a process that determines child eligibility for federal, state, and local programs and services for treatment and therapy. Eligible children may receive benefits they are entitled to, again, under the Individual with Disabilities Education Act, which I have mentioned before is the federal law. And just like I mentioned before, when we talked about screening, evaluation should also take place in the child's natural environment with familiar people and performed when she or he is at her or his best, with family members always involved as an active participant. And evaluation is a process that determines child eligibility and needs for services like treatment and therapy. So now let's talk about how observing helps build relationship with the families. Before that, we're going to take another poll. So observation, screening, assessment, and evaluation are the same thing. True or false? Let me launch the poll. There you go. I'll give you about a minute and a half. Observation, screening, assessment, and evaluation are the same thing. True or false? Okay, it's almost 70% voted. Thank you for voting, guys. Bring those votes. Vote, vote, vote. Okay, great. So I'm just going to close the poll now. And we share the results. There you go. That's right. The answer is false. These tools are not the same thing. Like I was explaining to you, they may have the same components, some of the components, but they all have a little different goal. And I'll repeat myself again, but everybody always get confused, all these tools. So screening and assessment and observation are to monitor child's progress over time, right? Screening is a snapshot, like I said before, of whether the child development is on track at this moment. And evaluation is the process to determine the child need other services, treatments, and therapies. So now let's talk about how observing helps build relationship with children and their families. Observing to build a relationship with children. Observations lead teachers to deeper understanding of the child as a human beings. In turn, this leads to a greater capacity to engage in responsive relationship with the child. Relationship between caring, trusted adults and the infant and toddlers they care for provide the secure base that is the foundation of learning. When infants and toddlers feel safe with, connected to, and supported by the adult around them, they are more likely to explore and experiment. Observation also helps staff build relationships with children with whom they may not initially feel a strong attachment or emotional connection. It provides an opportunity to slow down, pay attention, in a deliberate way and look for things about the child they might not have been noticed before. Even in the most challenging situation, finding one new insight might be the means for opening the doors to a deeper understanding of the child and the true beginning of the relationship. And remember that scenario with those two teachers, Donna, and where they had those few children who were throwing the toys, and they were observing them, and it turns out that they didn't throw them to misbehave, but they just create the game for themselves. So it's very important that we observe those children carefully and not presume that they are just basically misbehaving. Next, let's talk about how observing helps build relationship with the families. Education staff helps families feel valued and see themselves as leaders in their children's education when they regularly share their observation of children with them. Ask families for their input and perspective intentionally and regularly share observation techniques, supporting families to become engaged, experienced observers of their own children, and also deepens the family-child bond and relationship. In addition to strengthening relationship between teachers and children, sharing observation with children's families strengthens the home and school connection. By communicating regularly with parents about their child's routines, activities, development, and progress overall the day, including through parent-teacher conference, we can build stronger relationship with families. So now, let's talk about how do we know what to look for while observing, assessing, and assessing a child. We talked about that the assessment is an ongoing process that includes observations and provides information about development over time, and that it helps inform curriculum planning, teaching, and individualizing for each child across all Head Start early learning outcomes framework domains. But how do we really know what to look for when we assessing the children? Well, the Florida Early Learning and Development Standards and Benchmarks reflect knowledge and skills that a child on a developmental trajectory progression should know and be able to do at the end of the age-related time frame. So these are great tools that give us what should we look for when we observe children, which areas of development are important, and what do we really look, what kind of behaviors and skills. That's going to give us an idea what should we look for. And the standards for children born through kindergarten are grouped around 8 domains in early learning and development, and these are physical development, approaches to learning, social and emotional development, language and literacy, mathematical thinking, scientific inquiry, social studies, creative expression through the arts. So these are the 8 domains, and each of them have their benchmarks. So let's see some of the examples of the skills or behaviors and how we can align them to Florida Early Learning and Development Standards, what to look for, and when throughout the day in your classroom. So I'm just going to give you a couple of examples based on 3 domains. We're going to go over physical development, social emotional, and literacy, language and literacy. So in physical development domain, we have benchmarks, health and well-being, and motor development. So some of the things that you will looking for is the child uses bathroom and washes hands independently, uses fork, spoon to feed itself, tears paper, squeezes clay, buttons, zips, uses scissors to snip string beads, walks backwards, runs and avoid obstacles, jump over small objects and land on 2 feet, walks along unbalanced beam and edge of the sandbox, carries large bow while walking. And when can we observe some of those? During the arrival, when the child comes, can the child go by themselves to the bathroom? During breakfast, the child can feed themselves. During large and small group activities, when we going outside, during music and movement, after nap time when they wake up, and during the dismissals. So these are just some ideas for you to know what to look for and when. Social and emotional development domain have the following benchmarks: emotional functioning, managing emotions, building and maintaining relationship with adults and peers, sense of identity and belonging. So some of the things we can look for in here is how child calm themselves, is it using an adult or favorite toy, how child listen or follow rules, is there a response to change in adult's voice, how they complies with directions, follows routines and rules of classroom, when playing with new toy, looks at trusted adult for encouragement, waves goodbye to mom, dad, not crying, and joins activity, shows concerns for others, and examples are going on and all, so you can just take a screenshot with your phone so you can have the for yourself if you're interested. And when also upon arrival, during breakfast, lunch and snacks, large and small group activities, outdoor play, bathroom time, music and movement, after wake up, after nap, and during the dismissal. The next domain we're gonna just go over is the fourth one, language and literacy. Some of the benchmark is listening and understanding, speaking, vocabulary, sentence and structure, conversation, emergent reading, emergent writing. So here's another list of what you can look for here, how the child interact with adults, when it comes to conversations, conversation with peers, claps out words, notice when things rhyme or start with the same sound, recognize letters, name the letters, identifies letter sound, uses books, shows where to begin reading a book, reads a book aloud, pretend to read the book, tells a story based on the pictures, and is able to write the name. So when during the day you can observe those also upon arrival, is the child having conversation with you when it arrives, or with the peers, during the breakfast and lunch snacks, new vocabulary, during large and small groups activities and language and writing center, when you give them a language and literacy activities, can they write the name, can they identify letters, during story time, and during the circle time. So these are just a little examples for you to have an idea of what we look for and when throughout the day in your classroom. So it's time for another poll. How many this is the poll that I'm trying to see if you guys paying attention to what I am talking about right now. So how many domains are in the Florida Early Learning and Development Standards? 10. I lost my mouse. Sorry. I lost my mouse. Can't open my bar. Okay, got it. Sometimes the technical difficulties. Couldn't find my mouse to open the poll. Okay, so another poll. How many domains are in the Florida Early Learning and Development Standard? 10, 12, or 8? All right, cast your votes. 10, 12, or 8? Wow, you guys are so fast. I see them coming, those votes. Excellent. We're almost there. Keep them coming. I wonder how many of you were listening to what I was saying. Who's not paying attention? Thank you so much for voting, guys. Excellent. Oh, they're still coming. Okay. Okay, almost there. Okay, I'm gonna close the poll now. For those who didn't make it, you can write your answer in the chat box. Okay, so let's share the results. 62% were listening to me. That's right, guys. There is 8 domains in the Florida Early Learning and Development Standard, and I urge you to use them, and I know you have them in your school. And if you don't have them, you can go to their website and download the electronic version of the standards. And we also provide you at the end, there is a slide with references we used for this presentation, and we place the link to download the standards. So next, Ida will talk to you about the assessment cycles and type of documentation. So there you go. Ida, take it away.
Thank you, Agnes. So have you heard in this wonderful training webinar, Agnes has given you a plethora of information. So now we're going to talk about that assessment cycle. Now you're going to say to yourself, how do I start doing this? She's, observation, assessments, evaluation, screening. What are you guys talking about? So let's take it, baby steps. We're going to talk about the assessment cycle. The assessment cycle is instructional cycle that refers to ongoing. And you heard Agnes mention ongoing, and you're going to hear me mention ongoing, which means it's done all the time. And it's interrelated decision-making process that takes place during the child assessment. You as a teacher, you're going to make a decision. I am going to observe Agnes today. What am I going to observe in? Those standards that she's talking about, you're going to figure it out. So teachers continually make informed decisions on what to observe and why, and they choose the best way to gather the documents, information, and child's behavior and skills. They also decide how to organize, interpret, and use the information to guide and adjust their instruction in that classroom with that child and the rest of the children. Throughout the process, teachers seek input from parents. This is a circle of life process. We have to have the parents involved. It's you, the children, the parents, and share information with them. So we're going to talk about the 4 points that you see on the slide. The first one, observations. So you'll learn the importance of deciding in advance, very important, in advance, what to observe and how to plan for collecting information during regular classroom activities and routines inside and outside the classroom in the playground. So you're going to start doing the second step, your documentation. So we're going to talk about in the next couple of slides how to pick the method to document. But let's step it back just a second, Ida, calm down. So one way to document your observation is to make anecdotal records or notes. That is one way of doing it, and we're going to talk about that in the next couple of slides. After you have done your documentations, you are going to interpret what you wrote, what you saw. So for your anecdotal record to be valuable, the teaching team, so you might be working with another teacher or yourself, need to use them after documenting with your partner. Together with the child's family, you interpret the information that you gathered. You look at it, just the facts, the data, discuss the possible meaning regarding this observation and underlying causes of behavior and summarizing findings. Remember, wonderful educators, we just don't observe because there's a problem oh, I'm observing her because she's a problem or he's a problem. We're observing all the children, the ones that are in target, the ones that need a little help, the ones that might have some difficulty. It's your entire classroom, is, you know. But yes, sometimes we just focus on a specific child if there are some issues, but you are observing your entire classroom. And then after that, okay, what's my next step? Instruction. So the teaching team, with the input of the family, of the child's family, always let them know what's going on, uses the findings to plan instructions and to make changes in teaching so that every child will learn. Because there's some things that you can probably tell the parents, this is what I want you to do at home. Because it's a team, it's an entire team. That's why you see all those circles in this slide. Okay, thank you. So now we're going to talk about these types of observations. There are more out there in the world, but we're just going to focus on these for this presentation. So we're going to talk about anecdotal notes. Sometimes you hear the word record. We're going to talk about checklists, frequent count, work samples, pictures and videos, audio, voice recordings. So those are the ones we're going to talk about today. Okay. So the first one we're going to talk about is, what is an anecdotal note? And like I said, some of you may hear record. An anecdotal note is a narrative account of an event written shortly after it occurs. It tells what a child did, when he did it, how he did it, and what happened afterwards. It does not contain references to emotions, feelings, or other details that cannot be measured. If you can't measure it, don't put it in your note. Use an anecdotal note to write about the development of a skill or ability that that child is doing in your classroom. Okay? Let me tell you, these are pretty difficult to do when you start doing them. So when you're beginning to do your anecdotal note or record, you need to be what? Objective or subjective? Let's think about that. Let's look at those definitions. Objective terms are factual and set aside your personal beliefs, your values, opinions, and biases. Subjective, if you write a subjective note, is your opinion based and may be different depending on the individual points of view. For example, like you can be at a, let's say Kohl's, and I find this beautiful dress, and I was like, oh my God, Agnes, isn't this amazing? It's beautiful. It's gonna look real nice on me. And Agnes goes, no, I don't think it's pretty, because what's pretty and beautiful for Agnes may be different and pretty beautiful for Ida. That's what makes it subjective. And you know, beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, and my dress is amazing. So for you to remember, so just the facts. You are documenting what you see, observing the children in your classroom, what you see and nothing else. Don't embellish. Put it that way. So let's take a poll with Winnie the Pooh. So I'm going to read this anecdotal note. So Lauren is such a pretty girl, and she really enjoys playing in the housekeeping area because she is a happy child. Is that anecdotal note objective or subjective? And Agnes will launch the poll. Thank you, Agnes. So remember, Lauren is such a pretty girl, and she really enjoys playing in the housekeeping area because she is a happy child. Cast your votes, objective or subjective. I can hear the clicking, even though I really can't hear the clicking, but I can feel it. How are we doing, Agnes?
We're doing great. They comment. The votes are coming. 51%.
Awesome. Yay. All righty. Are we close? Yay. The results. Woo. All righty. And ding, 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 ding. It is subjective. Why? Because of some of the words that she used, such as pretty girl. All your children in your classroom are pretty. I don't need to know, if I see this observation, that Lauren is pretty. I want to know what Lauren did. I'm glad that she's pretty. I'm happy that she's pretty. And I'm happy. Also, the other one is happy. Can happiness be measured? Sometimes it can, and sometimes it can't, because you can fake a smile. I'm being honest with you guys. So what would have been a better way, and see in this next screen, of some of the things you should be including, and I would really take a little, screenshot of this one, and what to avoid. So in the note, you saw that I put pretty and happy, and those are the things, are subjective words that you should avoid, like labeling. She's shy, she's creative, and intentions. Oh, I know he wanted to do that. How do you know he wanted to do that? Unless he tells you, Miss Ida, I want to go to housekeeping because I am going to become a chef. If he specifically says these things, you got to really be careful. This takes practice. I'm not saying that you're going to know this, tomorrow. Evaluation, good job. Remember, when we're doing good job of praising a child, we really need to follow through on what the good job is, and explain it. Judgment, oh, she's beautiful, he's sloppy, she's pretty, he's, whatever, and negative things such as he can't, he won't. Remember, your children are trying to do things. So a better way of saying is, Johnny is attempting to tie his shoes. You can see it. That record, the anecdotal record or note, is a story that I will be able to see as someone coming from the outside and know exactly what happened in that note. Things to include is, what are they doing? What are they saying? Quotations, and you put it in quotes. You can describe their facial features. The child smiled. So, you don't have to say the child smiled because he was happy. Now you're going somewhere else. So, and description of the creation that they made. This is a really good slide. Click, click, just to let you know. So it's movie time, it's video time. So Agnes is gonna launch this video, and then we're gonna have a little short discussion afterwards. Alrighty, so that was a really, I love that video because it really explains what objective and subjective. And I probably said this before, doing an observation, a really good observation, you have to clear your lens and not see things as sometimes you think the child is doing something, or that he or you doing too much of the negative of what he can't do. Let us focus on what this child is doing. So on that note, we're going to start figuring out how to do an anecdotal note. So here we go. So this is the first one that we're going to talk about, that I'm going to talk about. And when it comes to anecdotal notes or records, these are the important things you need. The date, the child's name, when it happened, the time, how it ended, what is happening. So those are the major things that we need to know. So we're going to talk about Jeremiah. Jeremiah is 2 years old. The observation date is really important because, and when you do it, put the correct date, because you may say, oh no, that was yesterday, or you put tomorrow's date and the child will be absent tomorrow. It's the date that it happens, when it happened. Your name, and like we said before, you're going to target one of these standards. So the teacher is going to target approach to learning. She wants to see how eager or curious Jeremiah is. So remember, it's happening right as it's happening. She's writing this note. A few minutes after his mom left, Jeremiah explored the shape shorter for the first time. Jeremiah picked up the shape shorter another child had recently abandoned. He shook it, and pieces inside made noises. He began shaking it harder and faster, stopping occasionally to look inside the holes. He made one piece fall out, which made him laugh. After a few more seconds of shaking the shape shorter, he abandoned it to play with a truck. And then the teacher's interpretation of that observation is Jeremiah showed eagerness and curiosity. Can you feel, can you see, can you hear or read the curiosity with this note? I can just see it. It's jumping out for me. As he explored the shape shorter for the first time, something new that he did. So this is a great observation that the teacher did. And no concerns at this time regarding approach to learning, eagerness, and curiosity. So the next one we're going to talk about is the checklist and frequent count. So these are tools as a checklist and frequent count are used for a quick record. It just like it sounds. It's like when you make a list and after you pick everything up from your grocery list, you check. I got it. And off you go. So this about, it occurs for children, is about a specific behavior that we might see or a skill that we want the child to do. A defining feature of this tool is that it's very simple. Like I said, all you have to do is check. So we're going to look at Sarah, and Sarah's about 15 months old, and this is what it looks like. So the teacher's going to look at balancing and walking. So this is that physical domain that we spoke about earlier, that Agnes spoke about earlier. So she looked, she observed, and then she interpreted what Sarah did. So Sarah was able to pull herself up using the pull-up bar. She was able to balance herself and take 2 steps and stand down. Sarah is preparing to start walking, because you see on the walking, she checked no, but she has kind of mastered the balancing, because she's able to balance and kind of poop down. You know, walking is not an easy task when you're a little toddler. Making sure she has time during the day to play with the pull-up bar and encourage walking while holding on. And you can be that person that she can hold on to as well. During this session, Sarah demonstrates typical development in a target domain. So she is on target, because some children will walk at 9 months and some children will walk at 15 months. So it's not like she's not on target. All right, that's the example of the checklist. The next one is the frequent count. And this is just every time you see a behavior or a skill, you check. And this you can do with a couple of children. So we're going, Miss Anna in her classroom, she is going to observe the children sharing materials. And do not take for granted, oh yeah, children know how to share. Children do not know how to share. Especially if you're a lonely child, you don't share because everything is yours. And so don't take for granted, oh, sharing is caring. You have to show what sharing is caring is all about. So you see, Matthew has 1 check. Carmen has pretty much a lot of checks. So it seems like Carmen is pretty good sharer. And Henry is coming along. So her conclusion after she observed these 3 children is that Matthew has difficulty sharing with his peers, using role playing and direct instructions to guide sharing experiences. And you are role playing with Matthew in order for him to understand what sharing is all about. And it's not one time you're doing it or 2 times, you have to do it several times in order for him to realize, and then you bring one of the classmates in, and so on and so forth, to provide more support opportunities for Matthew to share materials. All right, thank you. So the next one we're going to talk about is the work sample. So this one pretty much, you kind of like figure out, it's a product of what the children created, can become a documentation of development and skill. The work sample can be 2-dimensional, such as a drawing or a writing sample, or 3-dimensional, such as a sculpture. And you can take a photograph of it or a video of a child building a tower, or record a song as they're singing it or telling a story. So that is type of work sample, and we're going to give you an example in the next slide. Okay, so this is an example of a work sample. Okay, so ask your parents, because parents do not want everything home. They're going to be like, my refrigerator can hold so many drawings and so many wonderful things, my child. Yes, Miss Ida, you can keep that one. So I usually ask the parents, can I keep this one, for I can have it as a sample of his work in the file. So this is Abraham, and we're going to target language and literacy and emergent writing. And Abraham is about 4 years old. Remember, children will write what they hear, not the correct way of writing, in the English language, which can be very difficult. Remember, if they are doing a drawing, ask about the drawing, and this is what he, because sometimes you look at that sentence, you go, I don't know what's going on there. So you ask. So when I asked Abraham to tell me about his picture, Abraham wrote the following sentence. I went outside, I played Frisbee. Abraham is showing control in holding his pencil and crayons and constructing sentences. So awesome. Do you love it? I love it. I love this. Okay, the last one we're going to talk about is pictures, videos, and audio and recordings. So when you're pretty kind of simple with that one is when you're taking a picture, you have to give me like a little note, because like they say, a picture tells you 1,000 things, or I may interpret it one way, and you're saying, no, Ms. Ida, that's not what happened. So with a picture, you have to kind of give me a little like anecdotal note telling me exactly what happened when you took that picture. The auto recording should be like a minute long when you're doing like a video, and also the audio too when you're recording, because depending on the device that you're using, the more you record, the more it's going to take from your data, and then you're not going to be able to do it. So 1 minute should be sufficient. With the video, I can kind of figure out what is happening, and with the audio, sometimes you might have to translate or interpret, because you may understand the child because that child is with you, but I may not understand some of the words because they're learning how to speak. So then that's the pictures, audios, and videos. Alrighty. Oh, we're going to take a poll. Yes, I'm so excited. I just love taking polls with Winnie the Pooh. All right, Agnes, do your thing. Thank you. So, which observation method is a narrative of what the child did? Checklist, frequent count, or anecdotal note? And Agnes will be launching the poll in a few seconds. Start clicking. Click, 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 click. I think I know you guys know this one. I feel it. Thank you for voting. Keep voting. How are we doing, Agnes?
We're doing awesome.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Fast, very fast.
Oh. I feel you're close. I feel it's coming to an end. What do you think, Agnes? Are we up there?
We're almost 60%. Let's give another few seconds.
Okay, thank you. Click, click. Thank you. See, I'm one of these people that I can't have silence. Sorry, my wonderful participants. I know you're probably concentrating to click on that one and I just talking. Okay, I'll stop. And woo, yay, 75% anecdotal note. When you hear the word narrative, you know for sure it is an anecdotal note or record. Yay, kiss your brain, so happy. Thank you. All righty, so let's continue. So now you're gonna say to yourself, okay, I've observed, I wrote my notes, I used the checklist, I used this, I used that, now what? Now you're gonna use this data to instruct your teaching and putting it all together. So once teachers and home visitors and family child care providers have facts about each child, they have to do something with all these facts. Okay, now what? As part of the ongoing child assessment cycle, now we're at the end of that cycle, educated staff review the facts and reflect on what they mean. The staff asks themselves questions about what the information says about the child's development, interests, and needs. And answer these questions lead to individualized care and links it to the curriculum. So you're assessing, you're looking at all that data that you collected, decide whether the child is progressing, decide how to adjust your teaching. We're teachers. Teachers are flexible, and all your children do not learn the same way. You may have one or two that are kind of like somewhat similar, but if you have, 15 3-year-olds, with the pandemic, it'll be 10 or 8. You still need to know what they are and how they're progressing and decide how to adjust your teaching in order to do those groups, those individuals, and also to inform parents. Remember, it's all a continuous thing. So let us move forward. Okay, so now you're going to review and reflect, and you're going to ask yourself a lot of questions. And remember, one piece of documentation is not going to tell you where that child is at. Like the video says, you need to gather many types of documentation or observation in order to know that that child is progressing or not. So you ask yourself, what developmental skill or activity does the child appears to be working on? What strategies does the child use to play with the different toys? You can see a child thinking and figuring things out as you are observing them without you always going in there trying to help out. Let them see if they can figure things out. The words may not be there, but the actions that they're doing, you can see, okay, they are on target. They're figuring it out. Does your child engage with the objects or people differently than he or she did a month ago? So what happened last month? Now what's happening now? What has changed? What has not changed? Do my actions? And sometimes you as a teacher will try to teach something to a child and he or she is not getting it. And your assistant does it and boom. Because sometimes it's how the message is delivered or the strategy or the technique. So you need to also factor those things. So you look at the outcome, how did it affect the child, the experience, so what now, and how am I going to take them to the next level, or how am I going to help this child? And remember, you always are in communication with the parents to let them know. And this is a good way with the parents, because if you tell the parent, I think she's having difficulty sorting, and the parent goes, no, she's not. You have your documentation. Well, on Tuesday she did this, and on Friday she did this. Let's have us sit down and compare all what she does at home and what she does here. Okay? All right. So as I was saying before, reviewing and reflecting on that observation information. So when a child isn't making progress and you're like, oh, what now? What change what, or how are you teaching? Sometimes, like I said, maybe she's not getting it with you, or maybe you are giving too much information. So let's reflect, and you're reflecting on your teaching. You say, make a goal or task simpler. Let me break it down a little bit easier for the child and for myself too. Change the setting or your schedule. Sometimes that child's all these different transitions from one thing to another may be a little too much for that child. and maybe they have their own little schedule. So you need to change up. Maybe there's something in your classroom that's not conducive. Increase learning opportunities or allotted times, especially when a child is really, really involved. And sometimes when you cut them short, they have a meltdown. So you know Johnny will have a meltdown. You got to give Johnny more time to say, hey, we're going to clean up soon, or let him go back to it later in the afternoon. A lot of different things you can do in your classroom in order for that child to progress. Adjust the time of assistance. Maybe they don't need you as much, or maybe they do need you as much. So you need to go in there because you are that child's best friend from Kingdom Come. You are the person, and then they'll make other friends, but they need your assistance, and let them also ask you all these questions that they need. So, and then the last one that we're going to, it's going to pop up, is provide additional resources. Remember, those parents are involved. So sometimes it's all on us, but it is a circle and say, look, I did this with Johnny today in the classroom. When you get home, can you do this and tell me tomorrow what happened, what he did? Maybe write me a note or take a picture, maybe a little video, and then we can compare. Parents are as involved in the education of their children as you are, okay? Can't stress that enough. So when a child has reached a goal and you're like, oh my, you're happy, you're like doing a dance in your classroom, you're telling everybody in the street. So move on to something more challenging now. I got to step it up for Sarah. She got this, now I'm going to move on. So consider the assessment data and you say, okay, she's on target. And these are those kind of bright children that you need to give them more and more and more because they need it. They finish quick, they know how to figure things out, and you notice that with all the assessment data that you have collected. Consider the curriculum. So, give them a little like more advanced and give them, and always look at your curriculum. Everyone has a curriculum in the child care centers. Find your curriculum if you don't know where it is and read it and figure it out and know how to implement it. So just a little side note there. And then consider the individual activities and goals. Children love to do one-on-one, but it's how you present it to them. If you tell them, Sarah, come here because you're lacking in, you don't know your colors, and you say it that way, Sarah's gonna be like, I am not sitting with Miss Ida. No, 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 no. If you invite the child, like I would sit in the table by myself, maybe there's somebody else there with me, and I'm playing as well, and they come to me, and I invite them, hey, Sarah, do you want to come sit down with me? I'm looking at colors, and I'm trying to figure them out. When you get invited, you don't get that, it's a buy-in. They're like, oh, Miss Ida wants to play with me, not Miss Ida wants to sit me down and restrict me, and I don't want to sit with her. Think about it. That is right. Okay, so let's put all this stuff together, all the wonderful things that Agnes said in the beginning and what I have been saying for the last couple of minutes, or it seems like forever, but it's not. Our conclusion: observation is one of the most powerful tools teachers, home visitors, and family childcare providers have for building relationship with infants and toddlers. Also, the preschools are in there, but that is the foundation. Those infants and toddlers, our 1-year-olds and 2-year-olds, will be successful 3-year-olds, 5-year-olds, and so on and so forth, okay? And their families. It is an entryway to seeing each child as a unique individual and as a capable learner. Okay, so think about that. Learning the art of observation and how observation informs responsive caring and individualized takes time. This is not something like, okay, I saw Agnes and Ida's webinar, I'm ready to go. That's not going to happen. Even I had a lot of difficulties, especially making those anecdotal notes and how to figure them out and do them correctly. So it takes time, efforts, and practice. And last but not least, however, the payoff in terms of positive outcomes for the children, and that's what we want as educators and their families, as well as growth in staff professionalism, is well worth the energy of doing observations, screenings, and evaluations, and all that we spoke about today. So with that, these are the references that we use. That Head Start website is amazing. That's where we got the video. Agnes and I are like, we love this. There's so much information that you can learn. We talked about the Florida Early Learning and Developmental Standards. This is a website that you can download it into your computer. I have it on my computer, and Agnes as well. When we're looking and helping our teachers, do you really think we know all of those standards? No. We are good, but not that good. So I'm constantly clicking in there, and so is Agnes, and we're, as we develop things for our teachers. So the next thing, this is our contact information. So anything that you saw or any questions, because sometimes after a webinar, you're like, oh, I should have asked that questions, email myself and Agnes, and we will be glad to answer you once that question pops into your head. All righty. So the next thing is the handouts. Remember to download those handouts. There are 5. And when I was talking about the anatomical notes, there is so much information there about it and how to do it, and templates that you can use. Awesome. Not for nothing. I think our handouts are amazing. So don't remember. And also, you click on the handouts, the little tab, and it opens it up and download it, and it'll download as a PDF file. Ooh, say that real fast. And remember, your certificate will be mailed to you after the training. Remember, give us 24 hours, and it's going to be mailed to the email that you provided when you signed up for the webinar. Okay. So these are the upcoming webinars. Tomorrow, Miss Adrian, our inclusion specialist, is going to do reflective practices for early childhood professional, taking you from surviving to striving. Sounds really interesting. And then on Thursday is our coaching specialist, Deborah and Gretel, and they're going to talk about spaces and places, learning about social studies and VPK, another awesome webinar. So if you have an opportunity, please sign up for them. So that's the upcoming webinar, and we have something special for you. Stay tuned, it's not over yet. Go ahead.
Thank you, Ida. That was so much goodies, so many good information. Thank you so much. You were brilliant. So before you let you go, dear teachers and providers, directors, owners, thank you. Thank you to all of you. Thank you, teachers. You are amazing. You are essential. You are superheroes. If the world didn't know about how essential you are before, now they really find out how essential you all are. Thank you so much for all your hard work. So me and Ida came across this cute little book, Thanks, from the Very Hungry Caterpillar by Eric Carle. And who doesn't love Eric Carle, right? The Very Hungry Caterpillar, the Brown Bear, the Very Busy Spider. He's just an amazing author. So we wanted to thank you by addressing this little book. Thank you from the Very Hungry Caterpillar to thank you for all you do. So we're going to take turns with Ida, and we're going to read this to you. Thanks from the Very Hungry Caterpillar by Eric Carle.
Thanks for showing me
to be kind to every creature,
to care for the trees and skies and oceans,
to be curious, gentle, and brave.
Thanks for reminding me
to wonder about everything,
and to dream of a peaceful world.
Thanks for encouraging me
to be a good friend,
to sing my own song,
and to always reach for the stars.
But most of all, thanks for being you. Thank you so much, guys. And this is Eric Carle, and as he said before, and I quote, "The Very Hungry Caterpillar is a story about hope," and he's addressing the children here. You, like the little caterpillar, will grow up, unfold your wings, and fly off into the future. So you guys, the teachers, the providers, you are the one who is responsible for those children to grow up and unfold their wings, and you send them off to fly into the future. So with this little story, we really would like to thank you for all you do, and go out there, shape those little minds, keep up the good work, and we can't wait to see you again face to face during the trainings, and we miss you so much. So having said that, I'm gonna take it back. And Ida, would you like to say something?
Just like you said, thank you for all you do. We know how you are superheroes, especially during this difficult time, and we are gathered together. We're here also as a support for you. So like the caterpillar that turns into a butterfly, that's what we want to do with our children, that they learn and those outcomes, and they love to be with us and learn, and books and all those wonderful things that we do with our children in our centers. Thank you so much for all your hard work. Thank you, Agnes, for presenting with me. Awesome. And this is Agnes, and I'm Piglet, and Agnes is Pooh. So we love you guys. Thank you for all the hard work you do. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.